And we are live. Hello, drivers. Doctor, if you have any device on with volume, could you please stop the sound of that?
Yeah, I think it's stop. Yeah.
Hello, everybody. Are you able to hear me and see me? Yes, we are live on Tribe. If you can see me, if you can hear us, please let us know in the comment section. Click on the like button and let us know that you look forward to this session. The name of today's session is Breastfeeding and Working Moms. So, as you all know, we are in the middle of the World Breastfeeding Week from 1st of August to 8th of August. And to continue on the same lines, we have with us Dr. Sameera Rao. Dr. Sameer is a consultant pediatrician and a neonatologist. A popular pediatrician, Dr. Sameera Rao is renowned for his expertise in the management of critical babies in NICU and PICU, resuscitation of babies, and emergency care. He has a keen interest in general pediatrics, pulmonology, social pediatrics, and emergency care. Dr. Sameer comes with a rich experience of working in leading pediatric hospitals. He is a member of Indian Academy of Pediatrics and member of Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health in UK. Welcome to the session, Doctor. Your opening thoughts for the session.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Thanks for inviting me. As you rightly pointed out, we are in the middle of the World Breastfeeding Week, and the theme for the week is breastfeeding and work, let it work. So, how can we help the mothers who are joining work to continue with the breastfeeding? So, congratulations to all the new mothers and all the best for all the expectant parents. So, we'll just go to a brief discussions regarding the importance of breastfeeding and also how to continue breastfeeding while away from work and also during the work. And as you all know, the importance of breastfeeding, I need not highlight or talk too much about the breastfeeding. The importance of the immunity and the bonding between the mother and the child is great if breastfeeding is continued. So how to go about it is what we'll talk about today.
Yes. So, without further ado, let's dive into the first question. So, how does a woman know if her baby is getting enough milk and if she's balancing her work and breastfeeding at the same time? What are certain things that she needs to change so that she ensures that there's enough milk for the child?
Yeah. First and foremost is the behavior or attitude of the baby. So hopefully the mother has that maternity leave and stays with the baby for the initial at least 3 to 4 months. So she would have got an idea regarding how frequently the baby feeds, how much milk it wants approximately, and the behavior cues, the way the baby cries before and after feeding, or if it needs something else. So the signs are if the baby is crying too much, excessively, unconsolable cry, and repeatedly, or even after 1 hour, 2 hours, the baby keeps on crying, that means the baby is requiring more milk. And the other important cue is the amount of urine. Minimum, the baby should pass urine 8 to 10 times in a day. If the baby is passing urine well, that means the milk is sufficient. The third sign is the gain in weight. So every time you visit for vaccination or for some other purpose, or we all have a weighing machine at home, if the baby is gradually putting on weight as per the chart, then the baby is getting enough milk.
Right. Okay. Often we see that new mothers have a tough time getting the baby to latch. So, can you please share what is the correct latch and what can women do so that they establish a good latch right from the beginning?
Yeah, most of the problem with the new mothers is they're very apprehensive. They take it as an examination, or it's they latch and they breastfeed and it's full marks. If it doesn't, they'll start feeling guilty about it. So it's a learning process. It doesn't come overnight. If it's a second or third baby, then yes, they would have had an experience. But if it's a first baby, it's always a trial and error. The mother is learning, the baby is learning. So you have to be very calm and patient. So most of the time before discharge, the nurses or the lactation consultant at the hospital would have trained regarding the breastfeeding. Even if not, it's a natural process. Just keep the baby on your chest. The baby themselves will crawl towards the nipple and start latching. The important points are make sure the mouth of the baby is completely open. If it is just a small mouth, then it will just hold on to the nipple and keep on biting the nipples, causing excessive pain and also maceration. So the baby's mouth should be completely open. The upper lip should be turned up and lower lip should be turned down. If it is this way, it will start keep on biting. So completely open, and most of the times what I see is the mother goes towards the baby. No, you should get the baby towards the mother. And whenever the baby is feeding, the forehead, nose, and chin should be touching the mother. And when the baby is sucking, it should not make too much of noise. If it's making a lot of suckling noise, then the latch is not proper. Take away the baby and relatch again. It just should be the gulping sound which should be happening. And if the latch is appropriate, then it should not be painful. Only the initial 1 or 2 minutes should be painful. The entire feeding time, if it's painful, then the latching is not proper. So take away the baby and relatch. You have many YouTube videos regarding the latching positions. So find out a position which is comfortable for both you and the baby, and you can go ahead with
All right. And how often should mothers be breastfeeding their children? Especially, what schedule should they be following if she's a working woman?
it. So it depends on the age of the baby. Initially, if 1 or 2 month old baby, we say feed the baby every 2 or 3 hours once. So minimum gap should be 1.5 to 2 hours, and maximum time we say up to 3 to 4 hours for the initial 1 or 2 months. As the baby grows older, the baby can sleep for longer times. At nights, even it can sleep up to 5 6 hours. If the baby is sleeping more than 5 6 hours, then wake up the baby. And if the infant is crossing 6 months, it's the expected time when the mother starts joining work. So above 6 months, if you have started introducing solid foods, then feeding the baby around 5 to 6 times in total 24 hours would be sufficient.
Okay. So, as we are aware that this year's theme for the World Breastfeeding Week is enabling working parents. So, pumping the breast milk is one of the major factors that is involved in enabling working parents. Could you please shed some light on that as well? What is a pump? Who should be using it? And how can breast pumping be done by working parents?
Right. So it sort of initially also even after immediately after birth, there are some certain medical circumstances where the mother has to pump out the milk if the baby is in NICU or if the baby is in sick. Then we cannot give direct feeding. In that circumstances, the mother has to pump out. And the pumping basically we divide into three types. One is manual pumping, where the mother cleans her hand and just pump through with her fingers, with the thumb and the fingers. So pump it down. So she can do it every 2 or 3 hours once. The second option is a hand pump, where it's just like using a hand bore, where the mother has to pump and cycle it out. The third option is an electrical breast pump, where the automatic suckling activity will happen with the help of the electric pump. Compared to all three, using electric breast pump is convenient and easier, and also the output of milk would be better with an electric breast pump. But the cost wise, the financial factors, electric breast pump is little costlier compared to the hand pump. Whereas the manual pumping out of milk is very tedious and painful. Initially, for few days, that can be done. But if you ask any practical mothers, for long time using hand pump is difficult. So I would advise to go out for a hand pump, manual pump, or the electric breast pump.
Okay, got it. Also, is there any specific food that women should be consuming or avoiding while they are breastfeeding their child?
To the food in particular to be consumed is we encourage the mothers to drink a lot of fluids in any form, water, milk, soups, porridges. So a lot of milk intake, around 4 5 liters per day, will increase the milk output. Lot of leafy vegetables and vegetables as such, and lot of rest and sleep will help in increasing the breast milk. And food to avoid, usually we say there is a practice of drinking too much of milk to get more milk. So some we see some mothers drinking around 1 liter, 2 liters of milk. So that is not advised. Whatever coffee, tea, or milk the mother wants, she can take. And in general, we say to avoid potatoes, rajma, beans, which causes bit of gas for the babies, and definitely no smoking and alcohol during breastfeeding.
Right. Okay. Also, how can women judge whether they are producing enough milk for their child or not? Because often we see if the child is cranky or crying just maybe 1 or 2 hours after feeding, and it's not the actual time to feed the baby, but still we feel that baby is not getting sufficient milk. So how does the woman judge whether the child is getting enough milk?
Right. There are important five things to note down whether the milk production is sufficient or not. One, initially, after feeding, if the baby is sleeping minimum for 2 to 3 hours after each feed, the baby is passing urine 8 to 10 times per day. Third is whenever the mother is feeding from one side, there is automatic leaking from the other side of the breast. Fourth, before feeding, the mother feel heaviness, and after feeding, lightness of the breast. Fifth is the weight gain. If there is good weight gain in the initial period, approximately 20 to 30 grams per day, then that means the milk is sufficient. And usually, only for first 1 month, it is you need to wake up the baby and feed the baby. After 1 month, it's more of demand feeding. The baby will decide the time and quantity. Only if the baby is sleeping more than 5 6 hours, then you wake up the baby and feed. And every cry is not for feeding. So most of the mothers feel very anxious, and every time the baby cries, then they start feeding. That's not the case. So at least the baby can sleep minimum of 1.5 to 2 hours after feed. The baby might be crying for other reasons, be it the temperature is too hot, cold, or before and after passing urine, motion, and gas. The baby keeps crying, and the baby should cry. So all crying doesn't mean you need to feed. No need to feel guilty about it.
Okay. And should we be introducing a bottle to a breastfed baby, and when?
Uh, Definitely not. I would not prefer to use bottle feed if you are very intended to start breastfeeding initially, because the baby will have nipple confusion, and also the sucking reflex will not be so great with bottle compared to the breastfeeding. So till at least the breastfeeding is established, it is up to 6 weeks to 8 weeks. Don't introduce bottle. Even if you have to give milk outside, formula milk, then it should be by palade, not by the bottle. Probably if you are working and it's very difficult, or if your attenders has to feed the baby by bottle, then I would say only after 3 or 4 months of age, after the direct breastfeeding is established, not before that.
Okay.
Definitely not before 6 weeks of age.
Okay. Okay. And can we introduce formula to the baby? Like, how do we gradually introduce a child to formula?
So it's predominantly exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months of age, initial 6 months of age. Formula shouldn't be given before 6 months. Only in rare circumstances, for any medical reason, or if the milk production is less, then formula milk is advised. Some others say after they start working, after 6 months or 7 months, when they start going to work, they want to introduce formula. That is an option, but what we have seen with experience is at that age, after 6 months, the babies also will not accept the formula well, because they are adjusted to the taste of the breast milk. So they don't like it, they'll start spitting out or vomiting it out. So I'd rather say after 6 months, you start weaning the baby to solid foods like rice, ragi, and all, instead of introducing formula feed.
Okay. And how long should the breastfeeding journey continue? When can we start weaning off children of
Uh,
breastfeeding?
Exclusive breastfeeding, that means only breastfeeding, not giving even water, formula, or outside food, has to be done mandatory till 6 months of age. Weaning of food can start from 6 months, and breastfeeding, we say, can be continued till 2 years of age.
Okay. And is there any, till what age do babies get immunity from breast milk? Because we understand that in the first 6 months, the child is getting the immunity completely from the mother's milk. But when does the child start producing its own immunity and stops getting it from mother's milk?
Yeah, that's the age. 6 months is the age when the baby will start getting enough of immunity by itself. But ideally speaking, the baby will start developing the immunity from day one of life. The baby's immunity will be there. But by giving breastfeeding, you are introducing, giving the baby extra immunity, or you are giving the antibodies which are there in the mother, passing it on to the baby through the breast milk, that will protect your baby against the infections. So unnecessary infections, unnecessary viral infections will be avoided in the initial 6 months when you're giving breastfeeding. Post that also, when you're continuing to breastfeed, some of the antibodies from the mother will be passed on to the baby, especially if the mother is acquiring a new infection, new viral infection, chicken pox, or any other COVID. Then the antibodies which are produced in the mother will be transferred to the baby. So some amount of immunity will be definitely there, but the babies will start producing immunity on its own from day one of life.
Okay. Okay. Also, are there any tips to balance work life and breastfeeding for working parents? I think we covered this question, but in case we have missed out on any of the pointers.
uh, the to balancing the work and the breastfeeding is you should plan early. So most of the parents will come to me at 6 months, 7 months and say, from tomorrow I'm joining back to work, and what will be the plan? So it's too difficult for the baby or the mother to adjust. So plan it well ahead, 2 or 3 months before you join the work, so you can decide on when to feed, how much the baby is taking, how much the required quantity, so that you can plan regarding that. If the baby is on exclusive breastfeed and you need to join work at 2 or 3 months of age, then you can plan regarding whether to stay near your workplace or stay away, so that there is a provision in your workplace to get the baby to the office and feed in the office. It would be an option. And if you are going about for longer periods, then you need to plan regarding where to pump out the milk, where to store it, and who are the attenders who will be giving the milk, and what form is it, like parade or bottle feeding. So plan in advance, then it makes your life easier. So if and also you can plan regarding if you're starting off to work early, then regarding when you want to wean to the solid foods. So this and all can be decided early. That makes the life easier.
Okay. And can fathers play any role in managing the journey of breastfeeding with the mother?
Yeah, definitely. Fathers can play a major role. In fact, it's more of an emotional connect. If a father is not at all involved in the breastfeeding, then he'll be lonely regarding the things, and he'll feel missed out. Rather than that, include the father into the part and process of the breastfeeding. Encourage the mother to breastfeed. Ensure that the father gives good rest for the mother by taking care of the household work or the outside work. And once the mother starts going to work, he can give the express milk using a bottle or a palade. So the father has to be taught regarding the breastfeeding, and also once you start weaning the food, the father can start giving the solid food, and in this way it builds up a strong relationship and the bond between the father and the child also. So if the father is not involved early on regarding the care of the baby, then he'll always be left out. Initially, if he is going through, then the emotional support, the social support would be great. So father plays an important role.
Okay, okay. We have a viewer's question. What is the reason baby latches for 5 minutes and 10 minutes and again needs milk every hour?
See, what happens is initially when the baby starts at first month of life, we say to feed the baby around 20 minutes to half an hour per session. But as the baby grows older, say after 2 months, 3 months, the baby has enough energy to take the required quantity of milk within 5 minutes, 10 minutes. So the stomach is full, but the baby feels very happy staying with the mother. The baby recognizes the mother by the smell, taste, and the warmth. So if you take away the immediately after feeding and put the baby down, the baby starts crying. Rather than that, after feeding, you just keep the baby on your breast or just keep them on your shoulders, let them go into deep sleep, and then put them down. Then they'll be okay with that. If you suddenly take them away from the mother, then they'll start crying. That might not be for feeding. And getting up every 1 hour and feeding, it might be because of two reasons. One, the milk you are given initially is not sufficient. You might not be producing enough quantity of milk, so stomach is not full and the baby is crying again for feed. It's very rare if you had met the five criteria that I told before. The second part is just baby is crying for some other reason. You just need to console the baby, check the diapers, take the baby out to fresh air. That might console the baby.
Okay. Next question is how to store the pumped milk. Is it necessary to invest in bottles for the same?
Yeah. See, breast milk is a I can say an important source of or a contributor for infection, because the bacteria grows very quickly in the breast milk. So you should ensure that the pumping of milk happens in a sterile way, and also the storage and package of milk happens in a sterile way. So I would always suggest to invest in a new breast pump. Don't use the second hand, or some of your relative friends have given the breast pump and you want to continue to use that, then ensure that it is completely sterilized, or invest in a new breast pump. Regarding the bottles, yes, you should sterilize the bottle according to the manufacturer's this one. And every time while storing the breast milk, you have to sterilize for at least 15 minutes, put it in a boiling water, and then it should be stored in a separate container in the fridge. And breast milk should be stored, can be stored in the fridge for 24 hours. Yeah, always use a new one. And even while you're using a bottle feed, that bottle has to be replaced once in a month or 3 months, according to different brands and manufacturer instructions. You cannot keep using the same bottle and the same nipple. That has to be changed,
Okay.
or the process of infection would be great. So be aware of that.
Okay. My son is 1.5-year-old. Is it the right time to wean him off?
Uh, See, 1.5, as I told, it's an dilemma. If you are, if the breastfeeding itself is hampering your work or his understanding or bonding, or is very much dependent on breastfeeding, he keeps on latching every time. Yes, then you can wean off. But as a medical person, I would say you can continue breastfeeding up to 2 years. Why? One, as I told before, the chances of the immunity would be greater if you continue with breastfeeding, and also bonding would be better. But I would rather suggest that the maximum number of times you need to feed is 3 to 4 times. Don't feed more than 4 times in 24 hours. That the maximum feeding should happen at night, not in the daytimes. So you can resume your work also during these times.
Okay. What is the best time and way for weaning? It is so difficult to see the baby cry. We have covered this, but if any points that we have missed out on, doctor, please feel free to shed some light on that.
Yeah, it should be a gradual process. Weaning, it cannot happen all of a sudden. There is an old tradition where say the mother should disappear from the baby's side for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, then the weaning would be attained. But emotionally, it's very turbulent. So what you do is gradually cut down on the quantity. So by 1.5 or 2 years, if you're feeding 4 or 5 times in a day, cut down to 3 times, 2 times, 1 time. Then you feed alternate days and then stop it. Don't stop altogether. Then if you stop altogether also, it will be a problem for the mothers, because there will be a lot of uh, lumps formed, lot of, it's a painful time. So gradually cut down on the milk every 1 week, every 2 weeks. Once you cut down the quantity, that should be helpful.
Okay. So, with that, we are at the end of today's question answer round as well. Thank you so much, Doctor, for sparing your precious time and being with us here today and sharing all this valuable information on breastfeeding with us. Any closing thoughts for today?
Nothing. Thank you. Thanks for all your support and the important awareness program regarding the breastfeeding. I think we should all come together. It's not breastfeeding is not only the job or the responsibility of the mother. The important thing we need to understand is it's a responsibility of the husband, the responsibility of the parents and the community as a whole. Breastfeeding should be encouraged, exclusive breastfeeding up to 6 months, and breastfeeding has to be continued till 2 years. As a society, we should create awareness, we should make provisions for the mother to express milk in the workplace, and we should be accommodative to for the mother to help her to continue her work and also breastfeeding. There shouldn't be a circumstance where the mother has to choose between work and breastfeeding. That shouldn't happen. Both should go hand in hand.
Great. Thank you so much once again for being with us here today. Thank you so much,
Thank
drivers,
you.
for joining us and tuning in. Stay tuned for more interesting sessions just on Parent Tribe by SuperBottoms. With that, it's a wrap on today's session. See you again in the next session. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.